Hey guys, as promised, we are diving in today to talk about the interest rates in Jamaica and how they are affecting the home ownership experience. I think that anyone that is currently buying a home, you own a home, or you're looking for a home will be able to relate to this video. I have experienced pretty much all of these situations, so we'll just get started with the first one. Imagine signing up for a mortgage today. You close on the house. It's a mortgage that you can afford at an interest rate that you're okay with. And a couple of years from now, you just get a letter in the mail telling you in the next 90 days your mortgage is going to go up $50, $100, $300. What would you do? So, my first example, when I bought my first condo in Jamaica, and let me just give you a little background about me if you don't know, I don't live in Jamaica. I am not Jamaican. I have no ties to Jamaica. I am just a person from the United States that went to Jamaica and decided to invest in real estate. Now that you know that about me, you will then know that I'm used to obviously the way things run here. Basically, I'm happily paying my mortgage. I'm running my new Airbnb business. And then about a couple of years later, I get a notification that my mortgage is going to go up $200. And that's going to be, I think it was like in the next like 60 days that my mortgage was going to go up. I'm kind of like flabbergasted by this, and I'm just thinking, why is this going to happen? And, luckily I was making a decent profit from my Airbnb business that I was able to afford this increase. But think about the people that maybe own homes, or either you're running an Airbnb and you're barely making it, or you can barely pay your mortgage. And now the rate has just went up and you have to come up with this money every month. Like they just send you a letter like, hey, your mortgage going up $200. That's a significant increase. At least I think so. I'm not saying everyone's went up 200. Some people had even more than that in increase. Some people had less than me. But the point is, it went up. And it's pretty rough out here in the world right now. So who has that extra money to just come out? It's not like you had time to prepare a year from now. This is like in the next like 60 days, you need to be coming up with an extra $200, but nothing else is going up, not your pay. No one's giving me a gift. So how do you make this work? Did this happen to you? And if it did, what are you doing about it? Because it's still current. Like my mortgage has never went back down to the 767 that it used to be. Now it's 967. The reason that the bank gave was pretty much, inflation started to go up. And I think the main bank of Jamaica, their rates had went up. So then the individual banks had to, take rates up on us. And I know all of that, yada, yada, yada. But I'm talking about me as an individual. How do you expect me to pay for my home? Like a lot of people, this really hurt them. And I know people had significant increases because everyone was talking about it. Let's talk about scenario number two. And there will be two types of people that will be able to relate to this. The people that are buying into new construction, which we're going to talk about that in a totally different segment in this video, and people that are buying pre existing homes. So basically, you go, you check the rates, you see what the rates are, you talk to your loan officer, you get your pre-approval, you pretty much know what your payments are going to be, at least a rough estimate. So you go out looking for a home. You find this home, you sign the contract, you give your down payment, and then you start the home buying process, at least the verification process with the bank. I just wanted to do a side note about the home buying process with the bank in Jamaica. They may tell you that it could take like 3 to 4 months to close a deal on a house with the bank. I hope that happens for you. Let me know in the comments if this happened for you. And this is coming from a person that is extremely organized and extremely prepared. My first home buying process took about 9 months. My second one took over a year. And this is coming from me having everything that they needed up front. And if they needed something from me, they got it back within 24 to 48 hours. I was prepared. It was constant calling, it was constant going behind people. I was prepared. And that happened to me. So all I can say in that situation is hope for the best, but be prepared for the worst. Back to the story. When I bought my second home, I started looking for a mortgage rate. The rate was 5% on the US dollar and roughly around like 7 or 8 on the Jamaican dollar. But again, all my loans are in US dollar. So I was comfortable with that. I had an estimated mortgage of maybe like 475. I went out, I found a house, I signed a contract, I paid the down payment. I went through the long, lengthy process of, doing the things with the bank, and then when it comes time to, doing that finalized paperwork for the bank, I find out that the rate is now 8% on this loan. And I'm like, oh my God, this is huge. This is a huge difference. And for some people, that could make or break a deal. It could almost have you at a point that you have to back out the deal because you can no longer afford to buy this home at that new rate. Now, again, this is not just individualized to me. This was pretty much island wide that the rates went up. And it just so happens that I was in the process of buying a house. Yes, I read the contract, but there were just some things in my head that I kind of just assumed, like this is my rate, this is what I have, and this is what it's going to be. But once these rates started to go up and I was questioning everything, I went back to the contract. And boy, did I find some things in there that I hadn't known in the past. The contract basically says that even though my rate is 5% now, it is at the discretion of the bank that they can go up on the rate at any time. As long as they notify me, they can go up on the rate. And this is clearly in my contract that I signed. The last scenario that I want to talk about is something that is very important because it involves new construction. And a lot of you have been asking me questions about, just the interest rates and, what they were then as opposed to what they are now. And I personally have experience with this. So this is the reason why I wanted to bring this up. Now, in Ocho Rios, there is a new project called Saul Harbor, and there's also a project that's near Drax Hall called Paradisiac. Now, Paradisiac is huge, and I think they have like 1,000 units between single family homes and also condos. And when this project came out, I was like just taken. I was like, oh my God, I want to get a place here. I'm going to do Airbnb there. The pre-construction prices were really good. And I knew I would have walked into the home with good equity. And that's kind of like how I like to buy real estate personally. But, everyone has a different situation. So I was really, really thinking I wanted to do this house, so much so that I went through the paperwork. I picked out a unit. And, there was a time that I was going to have to give my down payment money. Now, once you give the down payment money, that money is then gone because they're going to, obviously use that to fund the project to get your home ready. And they were giving us a delivery date of maybe 2 years from when we, paid this money because I got into it right when they started trying to sell these homes off. And I was so excited. And then the interest rate increased. Now, when I was looking, the rate was 5%. And I ran the numbers in my head, and I'm looking at this from an Airbnb standpoint and how much I would have to be booked, and could I make this work between the assessments, the overhead, the square footage of the house. And I'm comparing it to like what I paid down for my 1 bedroom with the ACs, because I was actually getting a 2 bedroom, 2 baths. I think it had 2.5 baths and a balcony. So that's going to be a significantly higher electric bill. So I had all that in my mind. I was adding all these numbers up. And at a 5% interest rate, I was still going to be able to afford this house. But it was right at the point that I'm like, but, I was going to just do it because I felt that I could afford it and still make a profit off this home. Well, during the process and right before I paid the down payment, that's when the interest rates went up. They went up to 8%. And it was like, oh my God, obviously if I at 5% could barely afford it, I knew at the 8% I wasn't going to be able to comfortably afford this house without having to have this house booked every single day, and probably even more. It was impossible for me to be able to afford this house. I just couldn't. So I ended up not doing the deal. Was I sad? Yes. I had my house picked out. It was like on a, I want to say the top floor of one of the, I was so happy. you couldn't tell me anything, ocean views, but I had to walk away from it. And that's how I made the decision to get the current house that I bought, because it was like between the two. But I found this out before I paid my down payment. I found this out before I actually signed the first contract to going to officially buying this home. But what about the people that didn't find this out until, they had already paid their money, like people that had paid money prior to this, or basically before the rates went up? What happened? Like, if you are a person like that and this did happen to you, and this could basically be anywhere, like it could be Salt Harbor, it could be somewhere in Montego Bay. When these rates went up, what happened? And this is just specifically for people that got in on new construction. And I'm not saying this to make you guys scared or anything. I'm just telling you about things that I didn't know, and I found out about, and I'm just trying to relay it over to you. When you do new construction and you get maybe the initial contract right before you pay the down payment, there is something called an escalation clause. So basically, what this means is that if during the time, because if they need like 2 years, 3 years to complete this project, what an item cost 2 years ago is probably significantly higher now. So this same thing applies to the construction. So in the clause, they have that they could go up on a house, maybe up to like 20% of the purchase price if they have to pay for manpower, supplies, shipping, whatever it may be. You have to consider this when you're buying the house, that you're hoping that this doesn't happen. But if it does happen, would you still be able to afford this house if the cost of the house goes up, 5, 10, 15, 20%? Would you still be able to afford the house? Now, they let you know about this. I don't know if you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, make sure that you look, or maybe you ask about it. But usually your attorney will tell you about it. That's how I found out about it, because I didn't even know what that was. But my attorney brought it up to me and she explained it to me because she wanted me to understand that the cost of this house could go up. So when you're going to try to get financing, and maybe you were trying to get it for one number and the bank was like, yeah, we could do this, and now you're going, because the house is almost completed, and now there's another number, and maybe you don't qualify for that number, on top of the fact that the rates are up. So again, I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm just trying to tell you what I experienced, and so that you can be knowledgeable about it, and it helps you work your numbers better, and you go into the process not like me, like, oh, it's so nice, and I'm just thinking about what I'm going to do and who I'm going to host and who's going to be there. I wasn't thinking about any of this stuff. But luckily it didn't affect me, and I ended up doing something totally different. But now you're in the know. These homes are beautiful. There's new construction everywhere. But as long as you have the knowledge base, you will be a more informed buyer. So that's all I'm trying to do here. Like, I love real estate. I love the thought of buying real estate, but I don't want you to be in a situation, you or myself, be in a situation that you're regretful of, or you can't afford it, or now that you've given all your money away and now you can't even get finance for the house. Because these people are going to want their money. And if you can't come up with that money or get financing, they're probably going to keep your down payment or keep a part of your down payment, and then they're going to just sell the house to someone else. So we just have to be informed. That's all I'm trying to say. And I can't fail to mention the last group of people that are out there. I'm in that category too. There are the people that want to buy homes, and now the rates have gotten so high that you can't even think about buying a home, or you have to keep saving because now you need a bigger down payment. And a lot of people, they tell me about real estate, but right now it's just not favorable for me because I just bought a house, I just renovated a house. I'm trying to get that business on the road. So right now at this moment, I can't buy another house, but that doesn't mean that you can't buy a house if the situation is favorable for you. Of course, you do it. Real estate is an amazing thing to have, but there are people that were probably thinking like, hey, I'm going to have this particular rate, I can afford this house, and now you find that you can't afford it. And real estate is not cheap right now. It's really not, but it's doable for some people. You just have to find the right deal that makes money sense to you. So that's pretty much it with my scenarios. What are the lessons that we learned from this? I could think of four. always read your contracts. Go through them. I know they are long. Take the time to go through your contract, highlight things that you don't understand, and get clarification before you sign. Hopefully, you will have a good lawyer, an informed lawyer that will be able to take out the time to really explain things that you don't understand. Developer contracts, especially if you're going to be waiting for a project to be, built 1 year, 2 years from now. Make sure that you go through these contracts with your attorney and understand them fully. Any questions that you have, ask for clarification. Don't feel like, it's a stupid question. No question is stupid when it has to do with your money. And remember, look out for that escalation clause. I think it's a very common clause that a lot of developers do. This is not just in Jamaica. I think it's everywhere from what my attorney told me. But just make sure that you take that into consideration, especially with the way things are right now, so that you are sure that you can afford this house if you do have to pay that escalation fee. And since we are talking about contracts, the other contract that I forgot to mention was the contract that you sign between you and the buyer. Make sure that you go through that. Usually, you will go through that with your attorney. Make sure you do that as well, because they have fees. Like, say, they want to close the deal in 4 months and you go over the 4 months, where they can charge you just because of the fact that you didn't close within that time period. So find out what that time period is. Sometimes you can ask for an extension, because that happened to me. Even though they gave me an extension, I still didn't close. Not any fault of mine. And I ended up having to pay the seller money because we fell short of that part of the contract. So make sure that you go through your contract and know that as well. But again, with a good attorney, a good lawyer, you will be able to find these things out in advance. And I'm going to end with what I always say. Always run these numbers in your head on paper with somebody else. You have to make sure that you can truly afford this house. So whatever that means for you, whatever you need to do it before, so that you won't have to be sorry afterwards. Because trying to get out of something, having somebody come take your house, foreclose on your house, or you're losing your down payment money, or this came up, you can't afford to have that happen. So, I'm trying to empower you with all the mistakes that I made in the past, and things that slipped by me, and I didn't get caught up in it. I'm trying to tell you everything that I know. And I don't know everything. Like, I've only purchased 2 homes, but I did some other processes, like I shared with you guys. I just want to just try to help you as much as I can, because I didn't have this type of information available to me when I was going through this process. Fixed rates are not common in Jamaica, from what I know. Not saying that maybe you can't negotiate one for, a few years or something like that. I don't know how that would go. You have to talk to the banks. I already told you in my other videos, talk to your individual loan officer, because if you don't ask, you'll never know. But for the most part, the rates are not fixed. So you have to take that into consideration. Talk more to your loan officer. See what that means for you from that specific bank, and how things would go for you if there is a rate increase. And always check the rates, from the time that you're looking, when you first initially start looking, to, when you're in the process. Make sure that you keep tabs on the rates, because just because they go up doesn't mean that your loan officer is going to call and tell you, because no one just magically called and told me. I just found out when I went into the office, and I found that was the new rate. Do with that what you will. So from what I heard, the Bank of Jamaica did come down on rates, and I'm hoping that they will pass that savings on to the banks, and the banks can pass that savings on to the borrowers, because Lord knows we need it. Like, can we get that? I don't know how true it is. If I'm not saying the right information, you guys please correct me in the comments. But I hope that they do go down on these rates, just even a little bit. Everything helps. Okay, guys, so I am going to end this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Remember, if I said anything wrong, please correct me in the comments below. Please let me know where you're watching from. If you've experienced any of these, I would love to read your comments, and I know that other viewers would as well. And I always have to end on a positive note. Tough times don't last for long. I know that you will be able to become a homeowner. You just have to stay informed and stay focused, and you will get that home. So until next time, I will talk to you guys soon. Please make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and please leave comments down. It really helps our channel. The likes help our channel. Just the engagement helps our channel. Thank you guys so much, and I love you, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.